You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
I switch between the cameras, that's what I'm doing. And if I'm on the computer, I'm not checking my emails.
Okay.
I'm looking something up.
Fine.
But listen, thanks, Rehiana, for coming. Rehiana with the silent I. God.
The eye for individuality.
I for individuality. Oh my goodness. I think there's I think I read somewhere that in New York, the name Unique has got like 100 different spellings.
Really?
Which I thought was
Well, it used to be that nobody could pronounce my name.
It's not hard, Rehiana.
Yeah. Well, you pronounced it wrong the first time.
Yeah, because you got a stupid I in there.
It's not a stupid I. But nobody could pronounce this. I got all kinds, and then some, but until the singer came along, and they went, "Oh, like the singer," and I was like, "No, she's younger than me." And it's a bit unfortunate I share my name.
Rehiana. Yeah. Different spellings. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. It's all good. Everything's wonderful. But listen, you're a doctor who's in the dock. I mean, you're in a bit of a pickle, aren't you? What's the situation? What's happening to you right now? Are you suspended? Are you investigated right now? Are you going for a tribunal? Are you at the High Court? I can't keep up. It's all these doctors. You're all going for your own business, and it's just hard to keep up.
So I have a mixture of all those. So right now, I'll summarize, and you tell me if I'm mixing you up, because there's a lot. And Crispin Flintoff always says I get very confused, and it's very confusing.
Who's Crispin Flintoff? Crispin
Flintoff, the show. He's kind of a lefty, and he does his own show on the Sundays.
Okay.
And he gets confused by obviously all the things that are happening, because there are many things that are happening. So
keep it simple. We don't want to lose the audience.
No. Okay. So I had 3 to 4 complaints in early 2024, up to about the election time, because I stood for the parliamentary elections in Bradford South.
For what party?
Independent, obviously.
Oh, well done.
And I obviously didn't win, but I got 10.1% in 5 weeks, which was not too bad.
Listen, double digits, 10.1.
Yeah.
That's massive.
I know.
Well done.
Yeah, so I think the message worked. The message was it should be Britain first, not Israel first. That was my election slogan. So yes, obviously Palestine featured. I wanted to end the Holocaust in Palestine, and I had other platform policies that are going to be novel to my new party. I'm setting up a new party. But I had 3 to 4 complaints. First from the Lawyers for Israel. The GMC dismissed it. General Medical Council, that's our regulator, dismissed it.
So hold on. They complained to the GMC.
Yes.
But what were you doing from a medical point of view? What is it you did to patients that was wrong?
Absolutely nothing.
So hold on. So what's that? What's your medical license got to do with your political campaign?
Absolutely nothing. They had an issue with my tweets. So they reported me for my tweets and said I was being anti-Semitic and I was a Holocaust denier. And the GMC said there was didn't meet the threshold for investigation.
Are you anti-Semitic and are you a Holocaust denier?
Well, it depends on what you mean by those terms. We could come back to them, but anti-Semitism is such a nonsense term anyway. I don't buy it. So particularly since the Palestinians are Semites.
That's a pesky fact, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a pesky fact. And actually, I kind of reposted a video yesterday, actually, of someone talking about when modern Hebrew came about. And it's roughly 150 years ago. So it sounds nothing like the Hebrew of biblical times. Because most Jews back then spoke Aramaic. And actually, Hebrew was used purely for religious ceremonies. And then a Russian Jew, whose name I've forgotten, but it's on my tweet feed, said they should have a Hebrew language. So the modern Hebrew, that's why it doesn't sound like the Semitic languages of like Arabic or Aramaic. It doesn't sound like them. It sounds like a mixture of German, Yiddish, right, and Hebrew. And you can tell. And so she was explaining the phonetics of the Hebrew language, the modern Hebrew. It's quite interesting.
Very interesting. And also a lot of the the Ashkenazi Jews aren't even Semitic. They're European descent. They're
and there's been studies actually. So
apparently you can't do genetic testing in Israel.
That's true.
Because they might uncover that fact.
Yeah, so you have to get a court order to basically do a genetic test, a DNA test basically in Israel. And that's very telling in itself. Why do you need a court order? And then when I ran for the elections, I had 2 complaints from the Jewish Medical Association. And the Jewish Medical Association, again, it was anti-Semitism. They complained about my election flyer. So, obviously the Electoral Commission is in charge of UK elections. And if my flyer was, anti-Semitic, if it was, out of bounds, obviously I would be pulled up and I would be thrown out of the election. Because there's rules you have to abide by. But no issue with the Electoral Commission. But the Jewish Medical Association reports me, says, how dare she use the word Holocaust? Right? So
and this is to the GMC.
Yes, she is minimizing the Holocaust. Needless to say, there was not one mention of what was happening in Palestine in anything that they said. Not one recognition of the catastrophic death count.
So hold on a sec. You've basically said in your flyers that there's a Holocaust going on in Gaza.
Yes.
And that's what you got into trouble for.
One of the things, yeah.
Is there a special license on the word Holocaust that you can only use it for what happened in the Second World War?
Well,
to the Jewish people, is it not allowed? You're not allowed to use it anywhere.
Well,
else?
it's not trademarked, so that was my line. My entire line was, this word is not trademarked for any event, because actually it derives from around about 1600s.
Does it mean burnt offering or something?
Yes, it comes from the Greek holocauston, so it means burnt offering, and actually it was first used, I think, in about the 1600s, Middle Ages, to basically denote a mass catastrophic event. Often caused by fire.
All right.
Which is essentially what we're seeing in Palestine. I mean, the number of tents, people being burnt alive that we've seen in Palestine. This has never been seen before.
An explosion is quite a big fire that happens very quickly and snuffs out very quickly.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. But how many bombs have been dropped on Gaza? I think more than Hiroshima.
Yes.
And Nagasaki and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a lot of bombs and a lot of explosions going off in Gaza. A lot of people dying. I think it's not unreasonable to say Holocaust. I mean, what's the big deal about that? It's
so I think,
and actually, do you not find that if you're referencing and using the word Holocaust, in some ways, you're kind of giving a nod of respect and acknowledgement that, Holocaust happened in the past in the Second World War and it's not very good, and now it's happening again and it's not very good. We should talk about it. It's like, you're not denying it. You're just saying, you're comparing it like, it's just as bad as what happened last time. This is not good.
So they had an issue with the use of the term. And obviously that's one of the reasons why I even wrote an article later actually saying, I'm sick of the Holocaust TM. The word is not trademarked for anyone. And there have been, bigger mass killings. They report, 6 million were killed in the Holocaust, during the 1940s. But actually, how many Ukrainians were killed, for example? During the Holodomor. Most people don't even know about that. And the count is thought to be in excess of 18 to 30 million. And that doesn't get any mention. In Rwanda, there was the highest killing rate. I think it was, within 100 days, 1 million people were killed.
Wow.
Right? I think that's Rwanda. But nobody really hears about that. Obviously, my platform policy is to ban usury. I think usury is a form of financial enslavement.
What is usury?
Interest.
So why not just say interest?
What difference does it make?
I don't know. I'm just saying, because people would then know what interest is. Interest, it makes sense. Everybody knows what interest is. But is usury as simple as interest?
Yes, it's simple as interest. So basically, they said, that's anti-Semitic. No, actually, in the Christian and Islamic faiths, usury, which is how it's always termed in the text, is actually unlawful. I mean, in Islam it would be haram. In Christianity, it was not allowed. Because it was a form of financial enslavement.
Okay.
This compound interest.
I think there's a slight difference. So they're used interchangeably, right? But historically they meant very different things. Usury traditionally meant any charge for lending money. So in biblical, medieval, Christian and early Islamic traditions, it was seen as morally wrong to profit from lending money, which was, considered barren. It couldn't produce anything by itself, but over time the definition shifted. Today, usury refers to excessive, exploitative, or unlawful interest rates that can kind of trap borrowers in debt. For example, a loan shark charging 100% interest would be called usurious. Interest is the fee paid for borrowing money. So
Well, the definition has...
So I think, but the traditional, correct, biblical, historical, Islamic version of usury is just charging interest. But nowadays, modern interpretation is it's excessive interest. But the reality is all interest.
Yes. I think all interest, and I think, if you provide a service and, you can always charge a fee, for example, but not have this exploitative system. And, that enslaves people. If you think about what people pay for their mortgages, by the time you bought a house, you're paying almost double at the end.
Yeah, for money that was never even theirs, and
Exactly.
they cooked up from nothing.
Exactly. So they complained about that. Obviously, the other policy plank was we're going to ban the Israeli lobbies from the UK. And they said that was, an anti-Israel, Jew hatred comment, banning lobbies. And the most influential lobby in the UK by far is the Israeli lobby. I mean, forget any other lobby. And so that they
Can you imagine if you said, I want to ban the Chinese lobby? Do you think anybody would get upset with that?
No, I don't think anybody would get upset.
Or I want to ban the Qatari Saudi lobby. Do you think anybody would get upset with you if you said that?
No, they say it all the time, don't they? They say the Qataris are buying up, flats in London. Nobody gets upset about it. Nobody says, "Oh, this is anti-Qatari, anti-Qatarism, and we must, we must stop it and report someone to the General Medical Council." So those two complaints were also dismissed. And I think for me, the changing factor was Wes Streeting coming into office. Wes Streeting has always been very pro-Israeli. I think even when he was president of the National Union of Students, he was called, I think by the Jewish Chronicle, our friend at the NUS. So, they're already, he was thought to be, markedly friendly towards Israel. He's taken visits to Israel, paid for, trips. And he, I think, came out with some statements that the GMC was not doing enough about anti-Semitism. So along comes my fourth complaint in November. This is at the end of November.
Oh, by the way, just to let you know, he's a member of the Fabian Society. Surprise, surprise. Yet another one.
Yeah, and I think he's also been to the World Economic Forum as well.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. Cherry on the cake.
Yes, absolutely. So then they said that this complaint was now by an anonymous individual.
They always are.
Yes, but a doctor who was complaining about my social media posts. The fact that they were open. I mean, the whole thing is, if my posts are open because there's nothing offensive in them, there's no hatred in them. So I'm quite comfortable sharing my views publicly. And the Community Security Trust, the person had copied in Community Security Trust. And I was of the view that this individual, this doctor, belonged to the Jewish Medical Association. So they were trying a different tack, not using an organization, but using an individual. And I think I was proven right. So I got disclosures eventually a few months ago from the lawyers for Israel. And what do I see? The very same email that went from the doctor to the General Medical Council was sent by the doctor to the lawyers for Israel. So this is, and referencing also the Jewish Medical Association. So that there was collusion. They were all working together.
How did you manage to get it and they hadn't redacted it? So I've got stuff back from the private hospitals, and I've just had 8 complete black pages sent to me. Like 8 completely black redacted
pages. Yeah.
Like what is it? What's in there? So I'm now going to complain to the ICO and say, what the heck?
Yeah.
What kind of disclosure is this? Like, I've just got 8 black pages back.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, so this is exactly what I had from the General Medical Council. But obviously, I wrote to the Lawyers for Israel and I wrote to the Jewish Medical Association. And I wasn't expecting much, to be honest. So I have a feeling, so they obviously redacted the doctor's name. But they left in the fact that the doctor was Jewish, okay, which was redacted by the GMC. And they had a copy of the email. So they redacted the names. But the reason I recognized it was the exact 3 attachments that had gone to the GMC. They were exactly the same. So this is the same individual. who is now telling the LFI, I've put in a complaint, I've spoken to the Jewish Medical Association, and the GMC, dropped that complaint within days. There's nothing in it. And then I was taken to the Interim Orders Tribunal. So I don't know how many of your listeners will know about that, but essentially the GMC investigates you, but whilst it's investigating you, it wants to decide whether it should sanction you.
Stop you from working.
Yes.
Suspend you.
Suspend or conditions. And what happened to me was I was doing clinics at that time, and I had clinics booked. These patients had been waiting for 12 to 18 months to see a neurologist. And I didn't see the urgency. I asked them to defer by mere 11 working days.
Defer what?
My hearing. So they wanted a hearing to decide whether I should be suspended, have conditions, whilst I was being investigated. And they refused to defer or postpone that hearing. And I got... And the tribunal, when I got the transcript, which the KC later said, I cannot get purchase on how they suspended you. That's KC saying it. He didn't understand the rationale because the GMC at that point was requesting conditions on my license. And then you see this conversation between these three women sitting on the panel. There's no mention of a suspension. They go away into a private hearing at the end of the submission. They've ignored everything I've sent. And crucially, they've actually ignored, and I think this was very deliberate because I was very fortunate because I had my sister helping me. She's a lawyer by background. And we had sent in a letter to the CEO of the General Medical Council, and Charlie Massey. And that letter was sent to all the teams in the GMC and to the tribunal service. And it was obviously addressing the concerns that we had about the complaint, but it also had a defense in there, if you want to consider it that way. I explained some of the tweets that they found, objectionable in their letter. That letter was referenced at least 5 times, saying, please ensure you have the letter of the 4th of December before the panel. And that letter never made it into the bundle. And the tribunal, who are obliged, when they see these emails, if they've looked through the paperwork, the first thing you have to say is, what's this letter that she keeps referring to? The 4th of December letter. So I don't think it was purely just GMC and an admin error. I was being set up to basically be suspended.
Well, this happens all the time. This happened to Sarah Myhill, saying you can't submit certain amounts of information, things are missing from the bundles, and then you can't provide new evidence. It's a kangaroo court.
Yeah, it is. And so then they went away in their private... So there's nothing in the transcript about suspension whatsoever. They were all discussing conditions and saying, ooh, this is potentially anti-Semitic. This is terrible. And they went away to have a discussion and they came back with an 18-month suspension. An 18-month suspension. So people who have harmed a patient don't get 18-month suspension.
Really? They don't get 18 months?
Well, no. I mean, I'm just trying to think of his name. Justin Stebbing is I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
He's a consultant oncologist.
Okay.
He's a little bit of a celebrity oncologist. And he was brought up for the final MPTS hearing. He was in the Daily Mail, actually. And he was found guilty. So he was never interim suspended because there were allegations of misconduct. He was thought to have given treatments to patients not having any benefit. He had an inappropriate relationship with a young female patient.
What?
Yes, which he called LMT, Little Miss Trouble. He never got interim suspended. And then when he was found guilty, this is even better, he was found guilty of gross misconduct. Do you think he was struck off?
9 months suspension.
9 months suspension.
Wow. Justin Stebbing, London cancer doctor, suspended for 9 months after misconduct hearing. Professor Justin Stebbing, who worked in the private sector in Harley Street, but also at Imperial College NHS Trust, currently having a holiday in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah, just 9 months. Wow. That's it. I mean, this shows that you're right, an inappropriate email to a dying patient he nicknamed Little Miss Trouble. What the fuck? This is, oh my God, it's in the Standard newspaper. I'm reading it now.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything that wasn't, out there in the press. Like this is public
And the
information.
panel rejected erasing Professor Stubbing from the medical register, instead decided on a 9-month suspension as there were public interest in permitting him to return to practice as soon as possible. Wow.
Yeah.
He previously admitted adopting a cavalier approach in the way he treated some patients. What the heck?
Yeah, that's an unsafe doctor. That's an unsafe doctor being allowed to work.
So he doesn't get suspended while he's having an investigation, and once they conclude that, yeah, he's been up to no good, he gets 9 months. Even though, like, he's having inappropriate relations or correspondence with a dying patient as well.
Mm-hmm.
You stand for Parliament and simply say, you know what, Britain first, no Israeli lobby, like,
yeah,
Holocaust in Gaza, and you get suspended for 8 months.
Well, my tweets were still legitimate. Like, so the other tweets they pulled up, but I mean, again, I can defend those tweets, and I have recently. So we can go into them.
It's a problem that you're basically a Muslim and brown, and you're not on the right side. Like, if you're supporting Zionism,
mm-hmm.
you'd be okay. But the fact is, you're having a go at Zionism.
I think we don't have figures, but I think disproportionately, for sure, brown-faced people have been targeted more. But I think the issue is very much whether you put it as whether it's you're a Zionist or a non-Zionist. I would probably say there seems to be Jewish privilege. So for Justin Stebbing is Jewish.
Is he?
Yes, he's Jewish. He's part of the Jewish Medical Association. And anyone, and when, I don't know if you know about someone called Liz Lightstone.
No.
So she's a consultant, renal professor at Imperial. And she's another individual who has written very offensive articles and tweets. I'm not pro-genocide, I'm anti-genocide. I mean, I think there's an important distinction here, that I'm pro-life as opposed to being pro-death. Now, she had multiple complaints about her.
What's her name?
Elizabeth Lightstone, Liz Lightstone.
Okay.
And she's a professor at Imperial. And there were
another goddamn Imperial. Cambridge, Imperial, Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
Not good.
Well,
prostitutes of science, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, carry on.
But she, I think people were probably didn't know enough of her background, but she actually wrote an article in the Times of Israel back in 2014 that kind of came to light, where she said, I'm trying to remember the title of the article, was something along the lines of, it's a mistake not to consider, not to call ISIS Muslim, and I basically because it is Muslim, and she also put up this tweet where she said, someone in Gaza today is wondering what to wear.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Right? I've just seen that.
And she put a target.
I think she's off, though. She's no longer on X. I can't find her.
All right, okay. Well, she may have gone off, but she had multiple complaints dismissed by the GMC.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the image now on my screen. So basically, for those who can't see what I'm putting up, Kidney Doc 101, Professor Liz Lightstone. I can't find her account anymore.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere in Gaza, someone is wondering what to wear to work today, and it's basically a doctor's outfit, white coat, press jacket, or a military uniform, as if that's all. That's quite inflammatory and offensive.
Well, it's actually more than just inflammatory or offensive.
It's racist as well.
Well, it's more than racist, and I tell you why.
What is it?
I think she's basically put a target on the back of journalists. She's justified the murder of over 200 journalists, and over 1,400 healthcare professionals. These doctors were being killed while they were treating patients. They were deliberately targeted.
Oh no, but Zionists will tell you that it's all Pallywood and it's fake, and it's just all a film script and it's not real life. It's all propaganda.
I mean, that's where you realise that just how psychopathic they are. Because actually, one thing that you could say about what's happening in Gaza is that we've all seen it with our own eyes.
Did the Nazis target doctors like this, by the way?
Well, are there any records of them doing so?
I don't know.
And are there any records of the National Socialists bombing hospitals deliberately?
No.
Sniping kids in the head deliberately for one day, and then the next day deciding that they're going to snipe them in the heart, because that's what some of the doctors reported as they came back.
Isn't there a T-shirt as well that was going around in Israel with a pregnant woman, and it's
Yes.
like 1 shot, 2 kills?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, that's right.
Did the Nazis do that?
As far as I know, no.
Okay.
Right. So
Just checking. I'm just checking.
So I actually don't make the comparison, as others do, saying Israelis are the new Nazis. I don't. I think it's offensive to Nazis, quite frankly. So, and people can take that remark as they will.
Oh, by the way, I found the T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to share that if that's all right. Because I think just in case people think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. It really is that T-shirt. So here we are. Share screen. So it's a guy wearing a T-shirt, and it basically says, and there's some Hebrew writing, but there's a lady of cross sights, pregnant. She's wearing a hijab. Apparently, she's got a gun in her hand. She's pregnant. She's got a bump. I think it was 1 shot, 2 kills, and the crosshairs are centered directly on her pregnant belly.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's depraved. I mean, I think you run out of words when you see what's happening in Palestine. You run out of words how to describe it, because this is not, a few odd events. This is deliberate targeting. I mean, doctors were reporting kids were being shot in the head one day. It was almost like a game. The next day, the kids would be coming in with, snipes to the heart. The next day, it'd be like the snipes to the genitals. So it was a game to these IOF terrorists.
IDF.
Well, I call them Israeli occupation forces.
Oh yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. I take that. That's great.
So I don't use the word defense because they're not defending anything. It's an occupation force, and I've refused to ever call them soldiers. I think soldiers conjures up this image of honor, like you're defending your nation. There's no honor in these demons.
Did you see that picture of those big guys, those big jacked, soldiers with military outfit and gear, massive gun, like one of the biggest guns you've ever seen in your life, and they're arresting these like little 6-year-olds. I mean, like, I mean, like, if you're a mum and dad and you raise that son, I mean, I'd be so embarrassed and ashamed. Like, here you are, you're putting on this military outfit, you're big guy, and like, this is what you're up to. You're like
you're terrorizing.
You're
children.
terrorizing a little 6-year-old, and like supposedly you got the best intelligence in the world. Like your intelligence is telling you that this 6-year-old is a terrorist, is a threat.
But this is a deliberate strategy.
What the hell?
But it's a deliberate strategy to terrorize the population. That's the word. They're terrorizing the population.
No, but Hamas is the terrorist.
Well,
Do you support Hamas?
Do I support Hamas? Well, it's illegal in this country to answer that question.
Well, I know. I'm just saying.
I'm just making the point that you can't answer that question. And, but Hamas are not a terrorist organization in my book. That's a legal opinion. I've said it publicly. I've said it on my tweets. I think that they're a resistance movement, and armed struggle is legal under international law, and they should be deprescribed. I mean, I've been saying that for over a year.
But listen, if China invaded the UK and has taken over the whole of England, surely, like, all the people in England should just accept it. I mean, fighting back would be wrong. Like, they should just...
Well, if you take that logic, yes, it would be wrong.
Like, because if any English people do rise up and fight, I mean, they're terrorists.
If you take the logic of the current regime in the UK, yes, everyone who rises up and says they want to defend their homeland becomes automatically a terrorist.
Super insightful consultation, and Doc M came into it with an incredible amount of information and support. I really felt he was there to help, that he cared, and that he genuinely wants the best for you. Can't recommend him enough. Thanks again, Doc. From Dave. And folks, if you want to see 40 other reviews, 5-star reviews, just visit my website, docmalik.com, and you can look at in the menu consultations, or go directly to the booking page, docmalik.setmore.com. Book a consultation with me. If you're unsure about how to move forward with a diagnosis, with a treatment plan, or you feel like you're stuck in a rut, you don't trust your doctor, you've had surgeries and pills, and you've got side effects, whatever it might be, I can help you. I can act as your advocate. I can help you work the system to your benefit, knowing what questions to ask and to explore options that the mainstream doctors might not have covered with you. Folks, if this resonates with you, please book a consultation with me. and I can't wait to help you. Back to the show. And they start, subjugating the people, terrorizing them. If the people living in that country rise up, they're not terrorists for doing that. They're fighting off an invading force.
They're freedom fighters.
They're freedom fighters.
Right? So, and I think...
But that's now wrong. You can't say that.
And I think this was all kind of part of the kind of pre-planning because of the way Hamas was prescribed in the UK. Hamas was formed in 1987. It's not a terrorist organization.
Yeah, but who was behind it?
So Priti Patel, right?
No, who was behind Hamas?
Well, this is where I would disagree with you. So I think, if that's where you're heading, I mean, whenever there's an organization, so for example, there was the PLO, but PLO in a way betrayed the kind of principles, if you like, of the Palestinian resistance. So, Rahmeh Al-Adwan talks, quite a bit about the Thawabit, the Palestinian red lines, the Palestinian consensus. And, armed struggle is one of them. In effect, by accepting the Oslo Accords, the PLO turned its back on those principles that were accepted by every Palestinian faction, that this was, their red lines. So I think because
once you drop your arms and you de-arm yourself, then you're... And this is actually history of in Palestine. Palestinians had weapons. The British insisted that all Palestinian Arabs, Christian and Muslim, give up their guns.
Yeah.
But the Jewish population, including the significant Jewish immigration population, were allowed to keep their guns and got them brought over from abroad. And then what happened? You had the Nakba, you had the massacre. Because suddenly you've got a whole bunch of people who are...
But you have no way to defend yourself.
Yeah. So disarming... When you disarm a people, tends to lead to...
And you can see that.
Genocide and killing.
And you can see what's happening in the West Bank. I mean, the people in the West Bank are, subject to settler violence all the time. But
let's go back to Hamas. So PLO, Hamas, you were talking about that.
So I was saying that, PLO... and there's going to be whenever there is always, whether you call it treachery or whether you call it that they've given up a key position of the resistance, then you will get a new group forming. Now, was that group funded at some point by the Israelis who thought they could utilize it? Yeah, possibly. But that doesn't mean that group was not a genuine resistance movement. And I think that it's actually offensive, I think, to all those giving up their lives to fight for liberation, to say, actually, you're a stooge of Israel. Because what did happen on October the 7th? People say, there was an attack. No, actually, it was the first time in 17 years that illegal siege on Gaza was broken. 17 years. And people, I think should just think about the fact that, nothing could get in or out of Gaza because of that siege. That was by land, that was by water, that was by air. 17 years, and the international community did nothing. And I think Israel did have intelligence that something was going to happen and thought they could utilize it. But if Israel was so confident, they wouldn't be fighting now men in their sandals and still losing, because they win. I mean, yes, they've caused a lot of death and destruction. Why have they not managed to get rid of the resistance? These are not people, I think these are not people who are prepared to give up their land, and they're fighting for it. And so there is going to be this story that how do you undermine them? How do you undermine, because you've got people in the States saying, yeah, actually now we're supporting Hamas where they've got freedom of speech. Then you will try and undermine that resistance and say, actually, Hamas was funded by Israel. So I think it's a little bit of a psyop in my view. But
two things can also be true. So for example, I'm not a fan of the Muslim Brotherhood. I'm not a fan of Qatar. Qatar is still part of the British corporation. City of London still runs it. It's a fake country. It's a fake country and an extension of the City of London. Even that family, the Tanis, they're all educated here in Britain. Yeah. There's bases out there, UK bases out there. It's just an outcrop of the old City of London British Empire. Okay, and the Qataris are big funders of Hamas. And while most of the people in Hamas probably are genuine freedom fighters, I think the leadership, I probably would suspect they're corrupt, like all leaderships, all these politicians. And I just feel like, I don't know, I just don't trust any of these people. I don't trust any of these organizations. I don't trust any government. I just feel like the people at the top are corrupt as hell. So,
yes, but the point is, I guess I would view it as looking at the outcome. So, they claimed that Sinwar was living somewhere in luxury. Where was Sinwar? He was fighting, like his men. He had the option.
You mean the leader of Hamas in Gaza?
The military leader.
Yeah, and that died in a chair from a drone attack.
He didn't die in a chair. He was killed.
Killed.
So they couldn't.
That's it.
Yeah. So they couldn't kill him man to man. So they had to send a drone because the resistance was fierce, and then they sent a drone to kill him. Right? I mean, they basically needed all this weaponry for one man. So they had given him a passage out. So there's reports that they were offering him a passage out to safety. He rejected that. There were stories that he was living in luxury somewhere. And where was he found? He was found fighting. So, and obviously, there are going to be Hamas leaders who are on the political stage. I mean, Hamas is actually a political movement. It's the Al-Qassam Brigades. That's a military wing. I mean, Hamas is a political wing. And they, of course, are going to be in areas where they can communicate with other countries, where they can go and speak to Turkey and they can go and speak to Qatar or speak to other countries. They can't be within Gaza.
But you know what? The thing is, all these right-wing Judeo-Christian Zionist people, they always, the way they say, oh, well, Hamas is a terrorist organization and do you support Hamas? I think you're right. You're picking up on the fact that, Hamas has got a big non-military wing, which funds, and charitable wing, hospitals and schools and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, it legitimately won the election that Jimmy Carter was there to oversee.
But some people argue, but they're all a bunch of Muslim head choppers and they're fundamentalists and they throw gay people off, rooftops.
Well, the line I take to that is that it's none of other people's business as to what religion someone is. I mean, this is the problem, I think, and I think where people show their hypocrisy. If we say that the UK is sovereign, it's going to be a secular country, and then we should not be interfering in other countries. That's the line that I take. That I think that we should be trading with other countries. I don't think we should be interfering in their affairs, whether that's Afghanistan, and I take quite a strong line on that. That's an Afghan issue. It's for the Afghan people, as far as I'm concerned. It upset all the feminists. Okay, the Taliban brought peace to Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been in ruins for decades, first by the Russians and the Americans. And essentially, when they overran Afghanistan and they threw the Taliban out of power, 20 years later, who's back in power? The Taliban. So, what a wonderful waste of billions and billions. But forget the billions of pounds being spent. What about the people? How many did we kill? For what? I think,
For what?
Afghanistan, if they want to make a change, let the Afghans do it. That's their business, it's their culture, it's their country. And I think if you take that approach, I think it makes me far more...
Well, let's just, again, flip the switch. Just imagine. China goes, Britain's got a terrible government. Keir Starmer's awful. We're going to invade and impose our way of running society and the government. What would people here say? Like, fuck off. You can't, you've got nothing to, mind your own business. But we, here in the West, the UK, America, NATO, we feel like we've got this God-given right to go around other countries and do regime change, depose their leaders, install new leaders, bomb their hospitals, bomb their water treatment plants. Like what they did in Libya is just awful. What they did in Iraq is just awful. What they've done to Syria. And the evidence is all there. Look at all the places they've been to bring democracy, to bring a better leader in. They've literally bombed them back to barbarity.
But that's the stated...
That's the hypocrisy.
But it's the hypocrisy, I think, of the people. I mean, I think the people who are pushing that agenda, never cared about those issues. I mean, Libya had Iraq had one of the highest standards of living. There was 98% literacy rate in Iraq.
Security, peace.
Yes, exactly. And I think that they utilize those arguments, i.e. we're going to bring democracy, because that's the only way you can get the population on board. So when the Iraq war broke out, what did they bring out? Oh, well, there was the, Iran-Iraq, chemical weapons. I mean, it happened in the 1980s, for goodness sake. What did it have to do with 2003? Absolutely nothing. But this is where I think you can manage a population.
By the same chemical weapons that we gave them.
Yes, exactly. Right?
That's an important point.
Yes. It's a very important point. But you can utilize, you can maneuver the population. And I think, it says something about the population that you can be so easily fooled, not just once, but twice, not twice, again and again, repeatedly. And it's the same strategy being used.
You other them. You make them like their culture is stupid, the people is stupid, the religion is stupid, they're not like us, they're barbaric, they're subhuman. It works, by the way.
It does work. And then you've got to get particular interest groups involved. So for Afghanistan, they always get the feminists out. Where are the feminists? I mean, this is my whole point. Where are the feminists when women are being slaughtered in Palestine? When basically, you have various fertility clinics completely destroyed. The banks, there were, I think, egg, where they were donated fertility units completely destroyed, to completely destroy the reproductive capacity within Palestine. Where are the women? There's not been a single outcry from any of these raging feminists. And that just makes you realize that these feminists, are not genuine, for the most part, that it's a political campaign, that they come out to target a particular country. And Afghanistan is in their sights. It's Afghanistan's business, in my view, whether it wants to have a theocracy or whether it wants to have a democracy. I mean, I wouldn't say the democracy in the UK is something that we should be boasting about when we have first past the post and we have unrepresentative leaders.
No, Keir Starmer's got 20% of the electoral vote and he's got a whopping majority.
Exactly.
Only 1 in 5 people voted for the party. But anyway, go back to Palestine, Gaza and your issue. So you get suspended by the GMC. Still active, ongoing suspension?
No. So then what happened was I engaged my indemnity body. Turned out to be useless.
Oh no, they're all in on it.
They are. So they were trying to say they would
By the way,
help.
whether it's COVID or not, I've heard the same thing. So it's one of the reasons why I gave back my license. You do know the final nail in my coffin was the Zionist lobby, don't you?
I think I heard about that, but I don't know the details.
So I was first pulled up very quickly because some of my listeners know already. I was pulled up because of my trans tweets, but it was all on the back of me speaking out against the COVID vaccines. So that's what got me in their crosshairs.
Right.
Couldn't really do anything because I kept sending back letters and refusing, investigations, refusing meetings unless they explained why and what I did wrong, which they could never do. And I kept tweeting about COVID and vaccines. And then when they told me to shut up, I went, no way. And I ramped it up. And then the way they got me was anonymous tweets about being transphobic. No patient, no nothing. One of the people who was tweeting is Johnny C. Holmes, who's a dead American porn star, by the way.
Oh, right.
So he came back from the dead to fuck me. So I had those kind of things. And then, one of the hospitals basically kicked me out because said, you didn't tell us about this referral to the GMC. I was like, well, I've never seen anything in letter. I've never seen anything in writing. And I've contacted the GMC and they said I'm not under investigation. So what the fuck? And apparently the GMC looked into my matter, didn't investigate me and said, no, this doesn't meet the threshold for an investigation. But that was enough for my main private hospital to kick me out.
Yeah, and the trusts,
on that pretext.
And the trusts are, aligned.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're noticing in Palestine.
So the next thing that happened was, having now been kicked out of my main private hospital with 80% of my practice and over 10 years of work building that up, I'm now in a hospital in London, and now I get contacted by 2 Jewish foot and ankle surgeons.
Right.
One on Instagram, one on WhatsApp, both saying, did you have Ava Bartlett on your show? Another one on Instagram saying, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what's the problem? Come on my show and talk about Zionism. Talk about your position. No response. But the next day, my hospital suspends me. We've had anonymous complaints about you, not patients, not the public. Can't tell you who it is. And we're going to investigate you for anti-Semitism. Not because of what you said, but because of what your guest said on your show. Yes. That there are some officials in the Israeli government openly asking for ethnic cleansing of Gaza, which is correct.
It's true.
Which is true. But apparently me having that conversation with my guest was anti-Semitic. Anyway, they suspended me for 5 months.
Wow.
So I'm no longer able to practice. The patients that I've already moved from the other hospital and said, I'm really sorry, I've just been kicked out of this hospital. You're going to have to come all the way into London now to be operated on. I've then had to tell them, sorry, folks, you're going to have to wait another 5 months. I mean, you can imagine what happened to my practice. Yes. It just imploded. They did contact me after 5 months to say the investigation shows that you're not anti-Semitic and you're cleared. But then immediately after that, they emailed me saying, oh, we sent you the report by accident. Please delete it. Obviously, it was too late by then.
Yeah.
But I handed back my license because I knew I've seen this play out
Yeah.
with COVID across the world. Anonymous complaints, suspensions, investigations, inability to earn, burn your money with legal fees, your medical licensing and medical indemnity working in cahoots with the GMC lawyers, and it's all one big shit show.
It is. And so
I have been hit by them too.
I had the MDGUS, and they said, yeah, we can assist. And I thought, okay, well, this would be the fee-free way of doing it. Sorry, don't cough. And so we had a meeting with the KC, and he, set out his position, i.e. there were two options. One, to take the GMC to the High Court and overturn the suspension, or secondly, ask for an early review. And I definitely was being screwed over. So my preference was for the High Court, because I know the bottom line is I was suspended not based on fact. It's the key crux of this whole legal argument.
It's political.
How are you finding me guilty before you've even investigated me, and you've, basically this draconian punishment of 18 months suspension?
Process as a punishment.
Yes. So he said, we'll go for an early review. And obviously, I had already taken significant time out, because I was pursuing my brother's assassination case in Pakistan. So I thought, okay, fine, we can go for an early review. If not, it's the High Court. He said, we need this information from you. I'm pursuing the High Court in Pakistan. I'm in Kashmir. And, sorry. And then it turns out the information they were requesting from me was not even required for the letter for the early review request, which they sent then basically in March. So now I've been suspended already for about 3 months. And what I found was that I was quibbling with MDGUS, my indemnity body. First they said, we'll need testimonials from people that you know. That's fine. I don't have an issue. But they were trying to put information in the letter that was detrimental to me. And I was like, but you're putting the GMC allegation, and it's an allegation, it's not truth. Therefore, you need to put something of my rebuttal to that. Or you don't put anything in it, and you just request a testimonial on why you're requesting it. So within 2 days, GMC said, we're not giving an early review. I think they were a little bit surprised by that, allegedly. And then they turned around and said, we need to get a legal opinion now as to your successes at the High Court. Not something they had said before.
Now it's going to take ages.
So now, no. So I said, well, that's not right.
Some more water.
Yeah, thank you. But so they then said, the first KC, if you weren't 100% happy, we'll get another barrister to give an opinion from the same chambers. And I said, okay, well, I need to speak to him, because if he doesn't understand my tweets, because he's a barrister, he's not an expert on Israel-Palestine. And they said, no, he won't go into your tweets at all. He's going to look at the legal technical aspects. And I said, okay, well, fine. If he sticks to that remit, that's not a problem for me. And what happened? He comes back, and you know how they give you percentages about the chance of your success at the High Court? He comes back and says, everything related to the technical aspects is basically strong. He writes within his opinion, I can't get purchase on how she was suspended. But then he puts in an interesting line, and because it had nothing to do with, it had no relevance. He said, it seems that she won't accept conditions. What does that have to do with anything? Why should I accept a punishment before I'm found guilty?
Yeah, exactly.
And then he starts looking at some of the tweets and says, this is not anti-Semitic, blah, blah, blah. But, this tweet here, may be, etc. But the point is, you haven't understood. Just because you see the word maybe Jewish supremacy, you don't have a clue what it means, or because, you're not conversant with what's happening in Palestine. I am. They wouldn't have that discussion. They said, oh no, we can't take this to the High Court. So obviously I was furious, because I should have gone a lot earlier. So I made the decision to file my own application to the High Court. Obviously, I'm fortunate because my sister is a lawyer by background, not regulatory though. So we filed an application. We've got a hearing date now for the earliest we could get was 10th of July. So I had a crowdfunder. Obviously, I don't have a big reach on X. And the next review is due. So, every time you're suspended, you have a review every 6 months. So the GMC is obliged to give me a review. So it sets my date for the 16th of June. I turn up for that hearing. I actually fly back. So one of the reasons I stayed in Kashmir, it's a lot cheaper to stay in Kashmir than to stay in the UK with no income. And I flew back the week before. And remember, we were meant to have a podcast. And I think because of the dates I was able to come back, I think I cancelled. And just as well, because I wouldn't have been able to come because I landed and I got arrested under Section 12 of the Terrorism Act.
What?
Yes, do you not know that?
Yeah, I heard about that, but why did that happen?
So I flew back because of the flight I could get, I flew into Dublin. And I hate flights anyway. So I thought, okay, fine. I always liked ferries. So I'd get a ferry to Holyhead and I would just get a train back to Yorkshire. I got into Dublin. It's a good thing I had a good night's rest. I go over to get on the ferry. I tell my sister, I'll give you a call later. I'm just getting off. 10 a.m., picking up my luggage, go to show my passport at the border control. And he says, oh, wait here for a second. He comes back with a piece of paper and says, you're on the wanted list.
What?
Yes, that was precisely the exact line. You're on the wanted list. I was like, for what? Can you come this way? So I have my phone seized, my laptop seized. I'm taken to Holyhead, then they transfer me to I think it's Carmarthen. So I have a nice drive. I'm put in a cell. I managed to think of a lawyer's name to contact and was given some advice. I was told counter-terrorism were coming to interview me from Yorkshire, and that would be sometime in the afternoon. They then changed their plans, and when they turned up, said, oh, we're taking you to Yorkshire. So I was driven up to West Yorkshire.
You handcuffed?
I wasn't handcuffed by Holyhead, but I was handcuffed by Yorkshire Police in the car. So I've got 3 officers with me. So this is ridiculous, okay? This is such a waste of resources. And one individual, I'm 5'4", and there's 5 police officers they've sent down from Yorkshire, 2 cars, to transport me and my suitcase. Okay, that's just a ridiculous waste of resources.
Okay. So but on what pretext?
Apparently for alleged support of a terrorist organization. Okay, and so I get taken up to Yorkshire. We arrive about 7. There's Normanton's full. In Wales, North Wales, I was the only person in their custody cell. Okay, so a neurologist locked up. But in Yorkshire, it was busy. So they said, oh, okay. So I was waiting in the waiting room to be booked in. And then I had my interview fairly promptly. So by, I think, 10:15 was my interview. And the lawyer turned up. So it wasn't a duty lawyer. They had always advised you not to use a duty lawyer. And the questions were just ridiculous. I mean,
do you even need a lawyer? Do you have to have a lawyer?
Well, I think my temptation would have been to probably give them a history lesson. But I think that you're not going to be able to convince anyone. So it's actually better to say no comments. Everything was no comment. That was the advice. And the things they showed me, this is I thought, look, even I can find tweets where you might say, oh, well, this tweet, maybe if you want to ask me a question about it. It's not breaking any law. I know it doesn't break a law. But if you're going to push it and you're going to say, let's ask her questions about one, I could pick out better tweets than that they picked out. So they picked out 6 tweets. And for allegations of support for prescribed organizations, so Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Okay? The 4 tweets they picked out were reposts with no comment from suppressed news. You know, suppressed news is a massive account on X.
No, I don't know.
Well, it's a big account and it shares news. It's a news site. I reposted a news site And that was 4 of the tweets were just from suppressed news.
And for that, you get arrested by counterterrorism.
Yes. And the other tweet had nothing to do with any Palestinian group. It was a comment on Israel versus Iran. Nothing to do with any prescribed organization. And the other tweet was, again, something quite, I think someone had sent something to me. Again, was just silly. To be honest with you, halfway in the interview, I asked for a break because it was quite hard to keep a straight face and keep saying no comment to everything. Because I was sitting there thinking, are they for real? Like, these are my tweets from December. Like, they were from December 2024, and I didn't leave the UK until end of January.
So we're talking about 6 months later, 7 months later.
Yes. But this was literally a few days before.
So then what happened?
So they took so when I was in North Wales, I said, look, actually, I came back for my GMC hearing, for my interim order tribunal hearing, which is actually on Monday. This was now this was a Wednesday when I got arrested. And they looked at the file and said, oh, we can't give that to you. It's like, well,
can't give what to you?
My GMC folders. So I had painstakingly photocopied everything or printed everything out. We can't give you the folders. I was like, this is public information, right? There's nothing secretive about my bundles my bundle of complaint and my 191-page response. I may as well use my time in the cell to prepare. And they were like, no, you can't have the folder. I was like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, so then when I got into Leeds, it was like, can I have Normanton in Wakefield? Can I have my folders back at the end of the day? They put me on bail. It's conditional bail. And
what was the condition?
So initially I had conditions. I couldn't buy devices. I couldn't, without telling them. I couldn't leave the country without telling them. I had to tell them where I was in Pakistan if I went. And what was the other condition? There were a couple of other silly conditions. I had to stay at a particular place. And then within, but they wouldn't give my folders back. They said, oh, we'll deliver them to you. We'll get what they delivered, not on the next day as they promised. They sent the folders, apparently, to the wrong address, left a note at the wrong address saying, we've got 2 folders for you. So when I went to the local police station, they said, oh, well, they left a note because nobody was home. And I was like, well, I never got the note. So that person kindly informed them that you've got the wrong address. And they gave me 2 folders, 2 broken folders that had nothing to do with, they were not mine, but they had tried to copy they had copied my copies, if you like, badly. Okay? So it was kind of useless kind of file. So my preparation, if you like, for the first IoT was disrupted. So I had that hearing. It was an afternoon hearing. And the GMC obviously obstructed. The first thing the GMC did, you know how the GMC has these rules that the tribunal has a rule that you can't submit anything within 48 hours, okay, of the hearing, because they prepared their addenda and for the hearing. The GMC was submitting information 1 hour before the hearing. And obviously, I don't have a phone. Okay, I'm borrowing my mother's phone for the day, and I'm not going to know. So my sister is ringing me and saying, they seem to have sent you something, but you're going to have to tell them. And what is it? The GMC, within 24 hours of my arrest, was seeking information from the terrorist unit about my arrest. So this is coordinated because...
This is collusion.
How do you know I've been arrested? Are you following my Twitter account? Because obviously nobody knew where I was. I just hadn't turned up. So yeah, I mean, my sister was frantic, my mother was frantic, and so there was a tweet going out.
How did they know?
So when I contacted the lawyer, they allowed me to make a call to my mother, and I said, so I told my mother, and then I think she told my sister, so she put a tweet out.
No, how did the GMC know?
That's a good point. I don't know. I have no idea how within 24 hours they had information from counterterrorism, because my suspension had nothing to do with the arrest. My arrest is not relevant. So the first thing the GMC tried to do on that Monday for the hearing was say, we've got new information, and therefore the suspension should stay. And obviously I objected, and so the panel agreed that it wouldn't be taken into account, because actually my arrest is not even reportable, because I've not been charged, I'm not convicted of anything. And that's the rule. So they quibbled over a video that I wanted.
So they never charged you?
No, I'm not charged yet. I say. They might try to charge me, again, because I think, like you said, the process is the punishment.
Do you think this is just a case of like they want to harass you and make life difficult for you and put you under pressure and see if you're going to break?
Yes, I think it is, because I know I haven't said anything illegal. I'm not an idiot. People can make mistakes, but I've been careful about my words, and I've stayed, in my view, within the legal limits of what I can say. And so I haven't said anything. And, everything I've said I can defend. The hearing then, by the time it got, she was then asking, how long is the submission going to take? Because we can't give you a decision today. This is a public hearing. And I was outraged. I was like, I came back from 8,000 miles away from a hearing, and you've got 1,000 pages in front of you, but you've allocated only half a day. So again, it's to cause maximum disruption.
It's all by design. But this is why I said, the reason why I didn't get into this whole fight, people say to me, why'd you give up your medical license? Because you're walking into a boxing ring, climbing in, with both hands tied behind your back and with a blindfold put on. And your opposition is a big gorilla. What the fuck?
Yeah, so I take your point, but I guess, the way
That's what they want to do to you.
They do, and I guess I take the view that I wanted to remain as a neurologist, number one.
That's what they want you to do. That's the thing. They want to...
Yes, but secondly, I don't think that they should be allowed to win. And they've attacked several others.
I know, I get it, but the thing is, it's rigged against you.
It's rigged, but then the point is the fight back has to start at some point, doesn't it?
Great. No,
but I think the difficulty, and this is my view.
I just thought I don't want to spend the next 5 years with all my energy fighting something that I'm probably going to lose. And even if I get it back, the damage is done. I've lost my practice, lost it. I might as well just say, fuck you, and now build something better with my time and energy to fight back. So going back to 2022 or 1 or whatever, when they all said to me, shut up and stop tweeting, December 2021, stop, don't talk about the COVID vaccines, Yeah. They didn't want me to talk. And look what they've done. I've now got an audience 1,000 times bigger, 10,000 times bigger than what it was then. I'm shouting out and making a noise and a fuss. And if they wanted to shut me up, they've created a monster.
Yeah. But I think that's also, what's happened with the attacks. So the way I see it is that, these attacks on free speech, because I think what ties both issues together...
Was Tommy Robinson defending you? Because, he's just in a march on freedom of speech and how important freedom of speech is.
The free speech union. So the free speech union doesn't want anything to do with this.
Oh, of course they don't. Do you know where the links?
Toby Young and the British Friends of Israel.
Yeah.
November 2020.
Douglas Murray. He's in the director.
There's also
Francis Hoare. He's the barrister.
Someone or other who I think was, again, co-founder.
British Friends of Israel company. You can find it and all their names are on it.
Yeah. So they had no interest, like they studiously ignored this despite approaches. I mean, I knew they would. So my hearing was then rescheduled for the 14th of July.
So freedom of speech, except when you speak out against Israel.
Basically.
That's it, right?
I think that's it. And I think going back to your stance, in a way I understand, because actually when you are fighting them as a lone individual, you are facing a machinery of abuse. I mean, I've got to the point where after the initial conversation with my investigation advisor, I mean, it's true, Ranjit Brar, Dr. Brar, who's a vascular surgeon, said, who are these people who are investigating us? Who are they? Like, what experience or competence do they have? And when I initially spoke to her, I requested her permission to record the conversation.
With who?
This investigation advisor, the very first conversation I had with the GMC and the last. She said, you are being investigated for your anti-Israel comment. I mean, that's some Freudian slip. I'm not being investigated for anti-Semitism or any Jew hatred. I'm being investigated for my anti-Israel. And obviously that's gone on record because she gave consent for the recording. And she never wanted to speak to me ever again. Because I quoted it because legitimately, I mean...
She tripped up.
She tripped up. And it's actually a true comment. And
of course it's
she
true.
never wanted to come to the phone ever again. I don't get replies back from emails. And it's actually such a farce that they're trying to, my view is if your case is so strong, why do you need to start adding an arrest? Why do you need to start opening up a past complaint? So they're trying to open up now the Lawyers for Israel complaint from last year that they closed. They closed it, I think, twice They're trying to reopen it.
Fuck.
Right? So the lawyers for Israel have gone back repeatedly because they all thought they were responsible for the suspension. So they were all taking credit for the suspension. And, it was the November complaint. But they were all involved. And they've tried to open up the complaint that's previously been closed twice. And nobody from this team at the GMC who are looking into this will speak to me. The head of the corporate team is someone called Jennifer Broadley. She must be on 60K, right? Probably for her. She's head of the department. She would not come to the phone to address the questions I had about the assistant registrar, who is now deciding that the 2 previous decisions are wrong and his is correct. And what do they send me? They sent me their bullying and harassment policy because I write them an email and I want to speak to them. I am bullying them. So can you believe that?
Folks, as you know, I've got no sponsors for the show, so no one pays me money to place ads. I do have an affiliate page, a shop page. So if you visit my website, docmalik.com, you'll see there's a shop page, and you can look at Hunter Gather. They do great food. We've been using them for years before even I started the podcast, and there's a little code you can use there. And there's a lovely sauna company, Wellness Heracles, that has an affiliate code with me. They have brilliant saunas and cold plunges. I highly recommend you visit my page and have a look at that. And there'll be some other ones as well, like sea green supplements with iodine and micronutrients. Like I said, they don't sponsor me, but if you buy from them, I do get a little tiny percentage, and it will go a long way to supporting the show. Folks, I also want to say thanks to all of you who've been leaving reviews on Spotify, the 5-star reviews. I've seen that they've gone up. I can't thank you enough. And also on Apple Podcasts. And on that note, I just want to say thanks to Antonia Eastwood, who wrote the following comment: entertaining and informative, 5 stars. I look forward to Doc Malik's podcast very much. He has a very good, easy to listen to style with informative, insightful, and interesting guests that will help you beat the system. I don't think there's been one episode where I haven't been entertained or informed. Thank you, Antonia, and thank you everyone else who's leaving reviews and sharing my content. It makes a difference. Okay, folks, back to the podcast, and thank you so much. This sounds like some kind of fucking Soviet era nightmare.
Yes. Yeah.
You're in this crazy fucking, was it Kafka? I think that's the word, isn't it? Kafka?
Yeah, it is.
Kafka court system.
So I got accused of bullying the General Medical Council staff.
They're bullying you. They're making up fictitious crap, and you couldn't make it up. They're taking away your freedom, your ability to work, earn a living. You're being arrested on counterterrorism. People are colluding against you, fabricating nonsense because you're critical of a foreign country. Nothing to do with patient safety.
No.
And just because you want information and you want the facts and you want to know what the hell is going on and you're highlighting the inconsistencies, you're now being accused of bullying and harassment.
Yeah,
what about all the bullying and harassment you've just been going through for the last couple of years?
That's completely ignored.
So I want to just quickly mention, just in case people don't know, Franz Kafka's novel The Trial describes the Kafka court system. So basically, it's published posthumously in 1925, and the trial is about the story of Joseph Kafka, a man who's suddenly arrested and prosecuted by a mysterious and opaque legal authority. Crucially, he's never told what his crime is that he's committed, and the novel follows his futile attempts to navigate an incomprehensible judicial system filled with endless bureaucracy, contradictory rules, and faceless officials. I think you should write Kafka too, the story of Rehiana. And the themes are the absurdity of the bureaucracy. The court operates in secrecy, just like the GMC, which with rules that don't make any sense to outsiders. Powerlessness of the individual, you, Rehiana. You can't defend yourself because you're never even told what your real charges are. You've got alienation. The trial reflects a sense of being trapped in systems beyond one's control. You're trying to speak to people. You're trying to get your questions answered, and instead you get accused of being bullying and harassment.
But I haven't even told you about the High Court yet.
I will come to that. Existential despair, basically, metaphor for the human condition, where we search for meaning in an indifferent or hostile world. I hate to tell you, Joseph Kafka in the story is eventually executed, inverted commas, like a dog, still without knowing what he is accused of. So the word Kafkaesque comes from works like this, meaning nightmarishly complex, illogical, and oppressive systems that leave people powerless. And basically it's all about totalitarianism, authoritarian bureaucracy, and modern government overreach. You, Rehiana, are the living Kafka of today.
Yeah, it seems that way, and it got worse, if you would believe. So it
Oh,
got worse.
Lord.
It got worse. And
Tell me.
So this one, then the hearing was rearranged because I had to go back to Kashmir because I had another hearing, and they set a date for the 14th of July for this IOT. Now it's a full day hearing for the tribunal, but obviously my High Court date is on the 10th of July. So I come back for the High Court in London, where I'm taking the GMC to court for my suspension. It's a full day hearing. I speak for 3.5 hours in total, I think. I represent myself.
Well done, good for you.
Simply,
was that scary?
I wasn't scared, no.
Yeah, I've been to the High Court now with Sarah Myhill, and if anything, I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys are just buffoons, all of you. Just like, what the hell? This is the highest court in the land, and what the hell?
I wasn't nervous. I think in April, when I was looking for legal representation, I think obviously, there's a feeling of security when you have a legal team. But I think I just gave up. I spoke to so many lawyers, and what I discovered that most of them were pretty spineless. They're not prepared. My position has always been legal. It's legitimate political commentary. And because it's not in the mainstream, like I'm talking about Jewish supremacy, I don't accept the word anti-Semitism. I don't accept that, Israel has a right to exist. I don't accept the Jewish people have a right to a state by virtue of their faith. It doesn't exist. This right doesn't exist.
But they're the chosen people.
Well, yeah, that's just according to themselves. Yes.
You don't accept the fact that they're the chosen people.
I'm not Jewish, so.
But it says it in their book, so they're chosen.
Well, it says in their books, not my books.
Well, maybe you need to make your own book and say that you're the chosen people.
I'm not basically into supremacy. This is a whole issue, right? So I'm not into supremacy. I'm an egalitarian. I think we're all equal, and so obviously I couldn't get lawyers to, people said, oh, you can't criticize Israelis, because obviously my tweets criticize Israelis. And I said, this is nonsense. This is not a case where the Israeli regime is the one that's completely out, it's the only thing that's at fault. The people doing the killing are in the IOF. The people who are blocking the aid trucks going in are Israeli settlers. The people who are voting in Netanyahu, and he's not the most extreme by any means. Isn't
that scary? Yeah,
that's very scary. He's elected. He's elected by the Israelis, and when you do the polls, and again I presented polling data to the General Medical Council, the polls are astonishing. I mean, and actually the more religious the Jewish people are in Israel, then the more extreme they are. 91%, I think, of Haredi Jews wanted basically a complete ethnic cleansing of Gaza. And when you initially look at some of the polls from 2023, only 1.8% of those questioned said the firepower used in Gaza was excessive. Right? At that point, 10,000 people have been killed. Right? So this is the extremism. And you've got, statement after statement from influencer, politician, various other community leaders, all saying, kill all Amalek, right?
Yeah, I've heard that. And Netanyahu was actually in a speech saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
And quoting their Bible and the Old Testament, whatever, and Amalek. And if anybody doesn't know, it's about basically killing every man, woman, child, and dog.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes. A child suckling oxen. Everything, basically. Destroy everything. And destroy our life. And
so I just want to quickly say something too. I did a tweet September 30th. I said, if you want to know who controls you, look to who you can't criticize.
Yes, exactly. No, absolutely. And this is what this is showing, that you cannot criticize one group of individuals. I call it constructive criticism. And you should be able to talk about facts. And that doesn't mean that you're criticizing the entire group. I mean, this is the thing. We always have to add on these caveats. If I criticize the Qataris, I wouldn't suddenly have to start defending, all Muslims, or put a comment in. Or if I criticize a group of, Muslims over here, I don't feel the need to say, I don't mean all Muslims. But as soon as you criticize the perpetrators of these atrocities in Palestine, who are Jewish for the large part, you immediately people say, oh, but I don't mean all Jewish people. And I really resent that. I really resent having to state the obvious because people will immediately lash out.
Well, that's the way they framed it. That's the propaganda tools.
Yeah.
That's where they've cast the spells so that they're shielded in so many ways, so that you have to tiptoe around this minefield, because if you're not careful and you step on one of the minefields, they can come for you like they've come for you. They will come for you. Look, they came for me. Like, I never even said anything. It was my goddamn guest stating the obvious fact and truth. And they went for me. What does that tell you?
Yeah. So literally, I mean, they will explode at anything.
And so can I just quickly, before you carry on, what I would also say is the truth doesn't need censorship to thrive. The truth actually flourishes under interrogation, under light, under exposure, under debate. You know what really does not like that? Lies.
Yeah, exactly.
Lies need censorship. Yeah. Lies need people to stop talking about things. Lies need propaganda.
I agree with you.
So this is the world that we're living in right now.
I agree with you.
So little Tommy Robinson, who I think it's David Miller, has just wrote a brilliant piece in the Grey News about it. Let me just check. It's David Miller. He's written a piece about the Zionist lobby and how Tommy Robinson's been funded by the Zionist lobby. You know, so Tommy Robinson's just done this march, huge march, and you know, a lot of good people went on that march because they're frustrated naturally about the state of the country. But it's all based on freedom of speech. You know, we're not allowed to speak, we're not allowed to tweet, and we're not allowed. And it's true. A lot of people are being locked up for social media tweets. But that's two things can be correct. That's wrong, but people are being, you know, locked up for social media tweets. But the guy is not going to be defending you. He won't ever ask you to come on the podium and talk about how your freedom of speech was taken away by the Zionists.
Exactly. It's selective free speech.
It's selective free speech. The Free Speech Union won't support you because they're Zionists.
Exactly. And I think, you know, I've moved probably a lot in the last few years, whereas I think before I didn't pay much attention, probably, you know, go back, say, 5+ years, maybe 10. But I think, one of my election manifestos was that, you know, I'm a free speech absolutist. And that means, you know, you're going to hear things that you don't like. And that's too bad, because I don't think you can have free speech and hate speech. Well,
after Charlie Kirk, what was really worrying is Pam Bondi was like, oh, we love freedom of speech, but, you know, there's no place for hateful speech. And it's just like, hold on a sec, but then who decides what's hateful or not?
Exactly. At some point, someone's going to find
what the heck?
At some point, someone's going to find something offensive.
Right.
You know, and, you know, people might find, you know, if you said, oh, the sky is blue, they could find that offensive. I mean, you know, people will find anything offensive if they look for offense, quite frankly. And I don't think you can have both. I don't think you can have free speech and hate speech. It's one or the other. And I think it's much better and healthier for a society to have free speech. So, I mean, that's the line that I take. And that means that, you know, people should be free to criticize. If they want to talk about Muslims, let them talk about Muslims.
So let's go back to the High Court. What happened then?
Also, I didn't have representation, so I represented myself. And I spoke for 3.5 hours. And, you know, and I did pull up the, you know, so GMC were trying to, obviously, I think, trip me up, because they had submitted their grounds of resistance, you know, weeks before. And then 48 hours before the court hearing, bearing in mind they've had weeks to do this, they submit their skeleton arguments, which don't differ that much. But, I mean, and within the skeleton arguments, they finally concede that the panel made an error in law. They said the panel had said in December, her Article 10 rights are not engaged, because we're not putting conditions on her speech. We're just suspending her. And obviously my argument was, yeah, actually, you are engaging my Article 10 rights, because by suspending me, you're trying to get me to stop speaking and stop, you know, putting stuff out on social media. So they conceded this error in law, but their argument was, even though they made an error in law, they got to the right decision just by the wrong route.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Even that Article 10 is bullshit, by the way. So they said to Sam White in his judgment when they struck him off, of course under Article 10A he's got the right for freedom of speech. Of course he does. But under 10B, if it goes against public safety, public health, government lines, blah, 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 that freedom of speech is null and void. And that's the reason why I have an issue with human rights law. no one has any jurisdiction over my rights. I have inalienable rights. The problem is when you give it to some authority who can say these are your rights, they can grant it and take it away literally in the one breath, like they did with Sam White. So yeah, he's got freedom of speech, but actually, you know what? He's going against the public health message, so he's not allowed freedom of speech.
Sam White didn't challenge his striking off, did he?
No, he went fuck off.
I know, but this is I suppose where I disagree, because I think it happened to so many doctors who spoke out against COVID. But they haven't come together as a group. And I think that's what's changing with maybe some of the medics, particularly over the Palestine, because the issue is the same. It's about freedom of expression.
How many medics are there?
There's hundreds being complained about.
All right, hold on 1 second. Whoa. Like, very quickly. Very, one sentence. The High Court. Did they overturn the suspension or not?
I can't answer that. I'll tell you why. Can I tell you that?
Yeah.
So...
It's just I'm looking at the clock, so...
Oh, okay. So very quickly, I... asked the judge to make a judgment that day. She said, no, I need to look at this information because the GMC wanted her to look at the tweets.
This is this summer?
Yes, 10th of July.
Right.
And I will give a judgment early next week, she said. So early next week would make it the 14th or 15th. I'm expecting a judgment. On the 14th of July, I go back to the panel. Now I have to make my arguments again. My suspension's overturned. My suspension order's revoked, so I've got my license back to work. Again, I didn't have representation, and I didn't back off. I didn't concede a single point. My tweet where I said Israelis shouldn't be allowed near humanity, and they couldn't be trusted.
Israeli what?
Israelis couldn't be allowed near humanity, I said.
Okay.
And not near our water supply, not near our food supply, not near our technology. They cannot be trusted. This was after the pager attack in Lebanon and Syria, where they blew up pagers in marketplaces. I defended that tweet. I just showed the psychopathy in Israeli society. And my suspension.
Do you know afterwards they were going around in America and news circuits and talking about what a great operation it was.
Yeah.
They're like, they actually had.
Yeah.
They were actually boasting and talking about what a great operation it took 10 years to, and you've just basically maimed and killed and terrorized thousands of people, innocent people, and that's like something to celebrate. I was just like, again, flip the switch. Imagine a Muslim organization, Muslim country, put little mobile phone pagers in Israeli society, and then 10 years later blew them off, and little children were being blinded, innocent women and men being maimed, amputations, blind, whatever, killed. Like, can you imagine the wrath that would fall upon that Muslim country?
Yeah.
And instead, when Israel does it, people are like celebrating and going, oh wow, look how great they are.
Yeah, it's psychopathic. And so my suspension order was revoked, and so I was waiting for this because obviously what the panel can't do is say your suspension was unlawful. They just revoke the suspension order, because that's only the power they have, to revoke, maintain, or give you conditions. They don't have any other power. I'm waiting for this higher court order. I'm chasing them, emailing them. The GMC contacts them the very next day. Says, Judge, we don't need an order now anymore because the suspension's been revoked. So I send the court back another email saying, how should we do? All my grounds of appeal, 9 grounds of appeal, haven't been addressed. One of them is the legality of my suspension, which will have huge implications for all the healthcare workers after me.
Absolutely. That's what they don't want precedent.
No. And also, I'm entitled to my costs back. I'm also entitled to a remedy if I want to seek it, i.e. damages from the GMC for not being able to have any income for 7 months. So I'm waiting for this High Court order, and I actually even went to the High Court when I was in London last time, and I'm told, I get a copy of an email. The judge, so this is a message from the clerk, the judge has said there is there's not going to be a judgment or order because the suspension was revoked. So this is over 1 month later, and I'm still chasing the court because I've spoken informally to about 3 or 4 counsels informally and 3 to 4 solicitors. No one's heard of this, where a judge has refused to give an order or a judgment despite a hearing going ahead, because at the time of my suspension, at the time of the hearing, I was suspended.
Yeah.
And all the issues are outstanding.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter if the original thing's been overturned. You still need a judgment.
I still need a judgment. She's refusing to give a That's why I couldn't answer your question.
Now, what's the recourse on that?
That's what I'm looking into.
The law's an ass.
So now that's what I'm looking into. Because
so the GMC sits above the law. It's in the Privy Council. They're putting some pressure on that judge.
I don't think it's the pressure of the GMC per se. I think it's the pressure of the lobby. Because what we talked about in the High Court, which is going to have to address, is I talked about my political persecution. And I said the GMC was being very disingenuous by saying some of these organizations attacking me were Jewish. And I said every single organization that's attacked me has either been Jewish or has involved a Jewish journalist. And that was true. So Jewish News, Jewish Chronicle, Telegraph, I was reporting the Telegraph 3 times at least. Jewish reporters, Times, I think I appeared in the Times twice. I was in the Jerusalem Post twice. And there were various other outlets as well.
Wow, they really like you.
They really like me, and I think they kept saying, "Oh, she's wearing her suspension as a badge of honor." No, it's the fact that I know I haven't done anything wrong. So obviously, I've gone back to when my suspension was revoked, and I said, "Can you strike off my 7-month suspension from the record?" Because what it will say is I've been suspended for 7 months for misconduct, and that is offensive. I have not, been guilty of any misconduct. And I want it struck off. And they replied, from the tribunal and said, we can't do that because only the High Court can do that. So I need the High Court order.
You're in a loop. You're trapped in a loop.
Yeah.
Sarah Myhill was trapped in a similar loop, by the way.
Yeah.
This is what they do. There's Kafka court.
It is.
It's a Kafka court.
It is. But this is why a group of us, the Health Workers Against Censorship, are going to do a couple of things.
Have you got a website?
It's being set up. It's at the moment as a group. It has a few campaigns.
So let's say that again. So how many doctors are currently facing problems because they've been speaking out against the Palestine and Gaza thing?
So I know hundreds have been reported.
Hundreds
have been reported. And I think, obviously...
How do you know hundreds?
Because that was an FOI request to the GMC. So they put down like how many were complained about. And I think the total came to about 500 or something.
500?
400 something. The figure was 400 and something. So those were the complaints going in. And obviously, we don't know what's happened to them in terms of, was it just closed off? Was it investigated? But clearly some of us are going to IoT.
So this, again, comes back to the fact that the GMC has been weaponized to punish dissent.
Yes.
Whether it's speaking out against COVID, lockdowns, masking, jabs, vaccines, trans agenda, or the Israeli lobby. Like, the GMC is totally weaponized.
There's crossover in some of those aspects, aren't there? Because when you look at, for example, the trans issues, and you look at the CEOs of every single company producing the various hormones, where is trans ideology coming from? Well, there's 8 genders in the Talmud. I think this is the kind of conversation that people need to have. There's 8 genders in the Talmud.
8 genders in the Talmud?
8 genders in the Talmud.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Really?
Yes, no, I'm not kidding you.
And isn't there a family in America, in Chicago, the Pritzler family, where the guy is really into it and supported Obama? She now.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I think that the Pritz family rings a bell. But I guess the point I'm making is that they're not allowing this conversation because we don't have freedom of speech. So we're looking into taking the GMC to court as a group over our freedom of expression.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right.
I wouldn't say if I wasn't sure.
Well, I've got 6 here.
It's 8.
Zachar, male. Nekave, female. Androgynous, a person with both male and female sexual characteristics. Tum, a person whose sexual characteristics are indeterminate or obscured. Elena, a female who does not develop secondary sexual characteristics at puberty and is considered infertile. 6 Saris, a male who does. Whoa, what the heck? And then, interesting. Didn't know that.
So
carry on.
No, it's all right. And then so we are taking the GMC. We're looking into legal options because I think that the GMC needs to be addressed. We've got
no, it needs to be destroyed.
I agree with that. I think it needs to be buried. And so what I get the
not broken and rebuilt. No. I
think buried.
Buried.
So I did say that in the High Court, and I actually said in the GMC's outlived its usefulness. It needs to be buried. Now, all these things that I said, obviously, because there was no press there, that doesn't have coverage of what I said or what lobbies I talked about. I talked about the Israeli influence. I talked about the influence on Wes Streeting, the health secretary, the funding he's taken from the Israeli lobby. And I think
how much has he taken?
Well, the figure quoted is about 70,000. He's taken free trips. But I suspect it's a lot more. In fact, the money he's taken from the private healthcare group, I think his totals over 200,000, at least. But that's quoted figures. These are from declassified articles of what they're quoting. I suspect it's a lot more. But he's on visits to Israel. Now he's pushing the GMC. As soon as my suspension was revoked, out he comes with a statement saying, I don't know if you read that, what he said. He said, it was an outrage. I'm paraphrasing slightly there, but what he said was that the GMC, we need to think about legislation. And, we've got a majority in Parliament. And this is one of my favourite things to do because it won't cost us anything. So basically, we've got an already biased regulator against us. The GMC was arguing for my suspension to be continued. But despite that, he wants to now think about legislation, so to bypass the regulator. That was Wes Streeting in the Jewish news. So these were, and then after my colleague, Dr. Aladwan, who you might be having on your podcast, he's come out with similar statements saying, the decision, because she didn't have any conditions.
Oh, here we are. I found it.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Just going to share the screen so everybody can see it. So what we've got here is the Jewish news. Health Secretary condemns GMC for failing publicly and abysmally on anti-Semitism. Wes Streeting said he would be hauling in the Chief Executive and the Chair of the General Medical Council to answer for the situation, 15th of July.
Yes. So one day after my suspension was revoked, and Wes Streeting is immediately called up by the lobbies and he responds. Whereas health workers against censorship cannot get a meeting with Wes Streeting. He's blocked them on Instagram because they were demanding a meeting with him over the censorship. And that's why there's a protest in London on the 15th of October, Wednesday 15th of October.
When is that?
Wednesday the 15th of
yeah,
October.
what time?
So it starts at 10.
And what's the name of the doctors what?
It's Health Workers Against Censorship. We want Wes Streeting to go. I think, he's compromised. He's interfered in decisions, and he was now interfering in the decision regarding Dr. Aladwan. He's broken ministerial code. He's broken House of Conduct. I mean, yeah, I know they break rules all the time, but the point is, he's in a position of responsibility not to and he's not there to kowtow to the Israeli lobby. And that's why, another aspect is that, when I see what the issue is, and the issue is, I think, the Israeli lobby. I think, we've got a huge issue in this country.
No, but the Muslims, the mass migration, they're taking over the country.
Well, we don't see them anywhere in any influential position. And I think that,
So I've talked about this. I've talked about the problem is the very people, and I'm talking about NATO, the West, who bomb West Asia, not Middle East, West Asia, and Africa, and bomb predominantly Muslim countries to the smithereens and back to the Middle Ages, and then install their fundamentalist rulers and actually fund the jihadis and the absolute nutjob militants and criminals, and then open up the floodgates to Europe. The same people then fund the fake right conservative opposition to say, oh, look how terrible these Muslims are coming here. And it's like, but you created this whole mess.
No, but if you look at the funding of some of the left-wing groups that say we should be pro-immigration, for example, my stance on that is, you don't have to be pro-immigration. Everyone's going to be kind of against mass immigration because you've got limited services. It's a sensible thing to do.
Yeah.
But stop bombing countries where people didn't want to come here. I mean, when you look at, the standards in Iraq, really, would people choose to leave their rather influential, rather affluent places to come basically and live probably somewhere in a dump and be at the bottom of the ladder again in terms of their...
Yeah, so this is the ignorance that people have in the West. They think that all these people from Syria or Iraq or whatever, that they were all living in village mud huts. And there was no civilization there, and they're all backward, and they got rubbish food. I think people need to understand that these places were centers of civilization. They're very affluent, they're very rich, and they're very comfortable.
Libya was exactly the
same. Free housing, free water, free higher education, free healthcare anywhere in the world. Yeah. Like, what the hell? If you were a married couple, you got given a house.
Exactly. No, I know. And Gaddafi had his, I think it was called the Green Book.
Yeah.
But
decentralized.
And so what you have in areas like Kashmir, like for example in Pakistan, and this just shows, again, the lies that are being told by the establishment, if you want to call them that, is they are saying they're going to stop immigration. Okay, why is it that the villages in Kashmir are being decimated? Because it doesn't help Kashmir, I'll tell you that for sure. Because you're losing the young, you're losing the youth, you're losing the educated. It's incredibly easy to come to the UK. So they're telling the population here that actually we're cutting immigration down. But even my mother has noticed there's no one left in Kashmir. Like, people are leaving because of no opportunities, and
I've been told most of the immigration is coming in from airplanes, not boats.
Exactly.
It's a complete lie, the whole boat thing.
When they were talking about 10,000, I think was the figure 10,000, was it 30,000, on boats, they had 1 million immigrants from India alone. That was when Rishi Sunak, I'm sure you can check that figure, was when he was basically Prime Minister. 1 million from India alone. But nobody mentioned that figure.
Right, okay.
At all.
Okay, so back to your joint case. What's it called again? The doctors group?
Health Workers Against Censorship.
Health Workers Against Censorship. So you're going to do a class action case?
Yeah, we're doing a class action case against the GMC. We're pursuing that we're pursuing that now. It should have happened before, but I think everyone's occupied.
Have you done a fundraiser?
We're going to start a crowdfunder.
Have you got a good lawyer?
We're looking for a good lawyer. Because I think what we need is, we don't need a pro-Palestinian. What we need is someone who's got a bit of spine and is very good technically. Because what's been infringed here is our right to free speech. We're being attacked for our free speech.
I've got a barrister and lawyer I can recommend.
I mean,
Yeah,
okay. Oh, I'll take the details off you then, actually.
Yeah, this great guy called Zach Cox. They've been defending Sarah Myhill. They're good people.
They're not Zionists.
Not dying.
I had a conversation with the Free Speech Union about a fortnight ago, and they came back with something that sounded so woolly, that was just hilarious. And I just thought, you must think I'm an idiot, because obviously you have rules. The point is that we haven't broken the rules and we're being discriminated against, because you can get, you get people like Joffe. He's another Jewish consultant at the Royal Free, and he's said things in a letter to the BMJ. He replied to a letter, outrageous stuff that would be very unprofessional. No action taken against him, though. So there is this concept. I think this, when I talked in the High Court about Jewish privilege, and I talked about Jewish privilege on my tribunal, because I think they need to be talked about. Because I don't think that I should only be able to say something if
they're victims and they're persecuted,
and yet they are one of the most affluent groups and one of the most influential groups. And when you look at it, when you look at the media, and they had a real issue, because I was talking in Birmingham, I gave a speech, and I talked about the overrepresentation. There is overrepresentation in Parliament. There's overrepresentation in media by Jewish people. Now, if that was Muslims, there'd be immediate uproar saying, oh, well, actually, why are there so many Muslims? But actually,
and if they're victims and there's so much rampant anti-Semitism, how do they get to this position then?
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense. It's either one or the other.
Exactly. You can't have both. So
you can't have both.
But obviously, if you point out the fact that line is ridiculous, then they say, oh, you're being an anti-Semite, you're invoking tropes.
Everything's an anti-Semite.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just ridiculous.
So
you can't win. So they've made the whole criticism of Israel another Kafka core.
Yeah.
Where it's just illogical. You every statement you make, logical statement, reasonable statement, is met with basically nonsense that you can't argue with.
Yeah, and I think
you're just an anti-Semite. You're like, no, I'm not.
Well, I got to the point where saying I don't really care. It's a word, and it's a nonsense word. So I am setting up my own party for that reason.
What's the name of your party? The Anti-Semitic Party?
No, so I'm not going to share the name because, first of all, it was being registered, and they had an issue with the name, perfectly legal name. Oh. And when it gets registered, I'll let you know, and you can update your audience. And so I've put in a substitute, but normally it takes 2 days. It takes 2 days to get it registered at Companies House.
All right, good luck.
And I'm waiting for over a week while they look at this name, which is perfectly legal, by the way. I'm not an idiot. It's perfectly legal. Because I think that there isn't a party that focuses on true sovereignty. There isn't, actually. When you look at the right reform, I mean, Tice was touching the wall just a few days ago.
I know.
I mean, that just tells you, who's in power.
The Roman fort.
Yeah.
What the hell is that all about?
So he's touching the wall saying, we've got to, we must defend Israel.
No, why?
Exactly.
Why?
That question is anti-Semitic.
No, but if I say we must defend Jordan, why?
Yeah.
We must defend Turkey. Why?
Well, yeah, exactly.
We must defend the Congo. Why?
There isn't a party on the right, whether it's Reform, whether it's Reform. What's Rupert Lowe's Reform Britain, Reclaim. I think there's a party Advance, another party
Heritage Party.
The Heritage has got some sensible policies, but they lose their way. And I think there isn't a party that says, okay, you know what, this is our line, right? And actually is actually truly free speech. Because if you're truly free speech, you can't have hate speech. It's nonsense. So it's a free speech party. It's a pro-family party. It's going to advocate for banning usury.
Is it a Muslim jihadi party?
You mean, is that the name? No, it's not a Muslim jihadi party, because I think that, there are many people...
The British Jihadi Party. You don't like the sound of that one?
Because I think people can call me what they want, right? And I think, jihad just means struggle. But anyway,
By the way, I'm an ex-Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So just FYI, I used to be an Ahmadi Muslim. But many of people don't even think of them as Muslims. It's a cult, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I left it. Not interested.
So, and you're entitled to that.
So I believe in God,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm over religion.
Yeah. So I'm a Muslim, and I have no problem saying that. But I think that...
But you know about the Ahmadis?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And it's a funny one.
Yes. So it is pretty it is cultic. And, again, they're pretty influential, because Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon is an Ahmadi.
Yeah.
And actually, there's quite a few the Muslims, allegedly, and people think that but they're actually the ones holding influential positions are Ahmadis. And Ahmadis have actually even got their own centre in Haifa.
Have they?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Uh-huh. There you go. You learn something every day. So they're quite a protected class in Pakistan too. So you can tell, who's really the elite in Pakistan, and why there's such conflict. But banning usury. So the name is to be shared once it gets approved. But you can tell when they have a problem, because this is what's needed.
I don't like British Jihadi Party either.
Well, I didn't say that was the name.
I'm just joking. I'm winding you up.
You're not succeeding.
I know. I'm trying to wind you up. So listen, we didn't even talk about COVID. We've run out of time now.
God, time flies. Has it been an hour and a half?
Yeah. What do you think of the COVID shots?
What do I think? So how much more trouble do I want to get into? So I have to pick my battles. I mean, I didn't take the COVID shot. I didn't take any.
A neurologist said to me that he was seeing so many problems following the shots.
So what happened to me was that when the lockdowns began, I was between jobs, and I actually didn't get a job because they were all asking for whether you've been vaccinated, and I wasn't prepared to get vaccinated. And my parents reluctantly, I kind of weighed it up. Did they need the vaccination because my parents were elderly and they were giving all this information? And my father has had problems since the vaccination, and I don't think that's coincidental.
I've heard this so many times.
And my father's, so the first thing he had was like a stroke-like event. That was within a month of the vaccine shot. And he had been stable cardiovascularly for over a decade, right? And then in August 2021, he has a heart attack after, about 2 or 3 months after his second shot. He has a heart attack. And then more latterly, he's had a extensive DVT. So he's had to do 2 shots. And I think, reading what the various pathologists are saying and what they're discovering, when someone tells you can't talk about something, I think it tells you that you need to talk about it.
Well, this is exactly everything. This is why COVID and the Israeli lobby have got so much in common.
I think that the big other issue is that nobody, our first mantra is first do no harm. So I find it quite shocking when actually, you have something, people are saying it's causing harm. Actually, you're obliged to look at it. And I noticed that, so at this point I was working, obviously I'm a MS specialist, and I began to wonder whether there were increased relapses. This is very early. But then obviously my brother was killed, and I went to Pakistan. So then I was away for like 8-9 months. So I was kind of out of the whole COVID
Yeah, don't worry.
No, I'm just saying. But
we need to talk about this next time. We're running out of time. Listen, final question of the day. You're on your deathbed surrounded by your loved ones. Before you pass on and meet your maker, what words of wisdom and advice are you going to give to your loved ones?
Good question. I would probably say end Jewish supremacy.
Okay.
There you go. You asked me the first thing that came in my head. So, because I think it's a huge problem. And I think that, you can't keep denying what's so obvious. And I think you have to challenge it, even if it feels sometimes it's futile, they have too much power. And now that's another trope about Jewish power. But the issue I'm talking, if you like, as you said, if you can't, know who you can't criticize. You can criticize anyone else, but as soon as you start criticizing the lobbies or you start criticizing organizations that are Jewish, immediately you're attacked. And I think that we need to end this hegemony, if you like.
And all this about freedom of speech, as long as you don't talk about them, the lobby.
Yeah.
That's funny. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
because freedom of speech is a big thing right now. Everybody's talking about freedom of speech. It's really important we maintain freedom of speech, but
we don't have much in the UK, though. I mean, and the attacks on the American.
We don't, by the way.
We don't at all, actually. And you begin to appreciate it once you start speaking out about something, just how much the system starts hammering you.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I got debanked.
I got debanked.
Yeah, and again, the reasons Santander has given don't add up. But I know it's because of what I've been doing, and saying, because out of the blue, both myself and my sister, 2 different accounts, 2 different addresses, both have been debanked, where they're closing our accounts down. And in America, you can see it. They have the First Amendment, and it's come under attack. And I think it's such a precious thing. People don't appreciate it, because at some point, whatever opinion you have, that's going to fall foul of someone. So it affects everyone.
Listen, come back again and let us know what's happening, okay?
Yeah, I will do. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I mean it. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.